Hi quilting friends, my name is Barbara Radzavikas, and in this episode it's a special quilting episode. Today I pinned up my quilt top ready to hand quilt. This is part one. I'll make part two when I sew around the edge and put the binding on. But for this episode, we're going to look at how to start from scratch, laying out the back, putting the batting on, putting the top on, and pinning up in a small space. It's part of the process. We have to do it. So I hope you join me and we have fun with this quilt. The quilt is called a Flying Geese pattern. The block is a rectangle of 8 inches by 4.5 inches with 2 squares of 4.5 inch squares, and they are sewn on the diagonal on the rectangle. Very easy, and this is a beautiful pattern for using up scraps. So basically it's a scrap quilt. I've made mine in K-facet fabrics. I'll talk about it in the video. I made this top at the beginning of lockdown. I jumped into my fabrics, my K-facet fabrics. They are so beautiful. I thought, yeah, I need something, something interesting and beautiful to do. So that's what I did. So I'd like to welcome my subscribers, my new and old subscribers, not old subscribers, my friends. I do enjoy having friends that are passionate about quilting, making quilts. So yeah, it's just great to have you all along. And I'm so glad that you like to see me helping, demonstrating how I do my quilts. So thanks, friends. Let's jump in. This morning I am going to make a sandwich, a quilt sandwich. I'm going to put my layers together of a quilt. This is the backing. It's a wide Tula print. I've been procrastinating for ages about this. So today is the day. Got all my pins out and I have a few hours to make this up. It's very humid at the moment, and this is the quilt that I'm going to pin up ready to hand quilt. So yeah, should take me about maybe hour and a half to. So I'll video stages as I go along. So because I have a very narrow table and I'm doing this by myself, I've put my 3 green cutting boards on the table horizontally. The last one is overlapping. And then I laid out my backing and sticky taped the edges just so I wouldn't have any creases. Hopefully I won't have creases. I haven't got enough batting for the whole thing, so I will cut off that piece down there, and I'll get another piece to go on the bottom, and I'll just overlap. But this is how far I've got at the moment. So doing it by myself is tricky, but not impossible. I live in a narrow in a small space, so every little inch counts. So I've gone right to the edge. I had to move a few things, but yeah, my table is a nice height. I specifically wanted this table. I've had it for 12 years now, and it's made from bamboo, but it's the right height for me. I'm 5'7", and I don't have to bend over as much, so that is really helpful, especially with quilting. So this is what I'm up to at the moment. The next is to lay the quilt out on top layer. So I'm going to carefully place my quilt pieced top on the batting, and this is a tricky part because I don't want any folds in the back, and you all know how that is. So I just don't want any drag, you know what I mean, on the, and I don't want any distortion of the top when I'm doing this. So the batting is perfect size for the quilt top, and I think that looks pretty flat, and I'm happy with it. Now I'll get the pins. This is my pin box. I've got chalk markers. I really like chalk markers, especially for drawing curves. I've got a beautiful white pencil. I love it. And hundreds of pins. So, getting my pins out. Hope they're not too noisy. I might do them down this end. Untangling them is tricky because I leave them open. And so, pinning begins. Got one on my foot. So I pin around the edges first. Then I pin the centers. So I'll pin 3 layers together here, all around the edge until I get the whole thing covered. And I want it pretty much covered with pins. So I'll put a pin in each triangle, and we'll see how we go from there. This batting that I'm using is a cotton batting. I like to have cottons with cottons, but I don't mind wool blends either. As long as they're a nice thin bat, you know, it's fine. I don't want too many, you know, it too thick if I'm going to hand quilt. So I just pin my nice curved pins, and I can feel them touching the green mat underneath. And I'm left-handed, so I pin left-handed, and they just rock into place, and I have my middle finger as the ramp to pin the fulcrum. It will take about an hour and a half, but you know, in the scheme of things, an hour and a half is not that much. It's very humid today. It's the end of March, 23rd of March. And it's still very humid for this time of the year. Although there is a nice breeze and it looks like there might be a storm later, so something to look forward to, cooling off. But because I live in the top floor of an old Art Deco block of flats, a beautiful flat at the back, facing the ocean, I get an ocean breeze And in the afternoon we get what is called a southerly buster. It's a nice onshore breeze from the ocean, and it comes every afternoon at about 3:30, 4 o'clock. It's so wonderful. So I am going to continue on pinning, and I'll show you how I attach or make the batting a bit bigger. But this is a lovely quilt. This pattern is called Flying Geese. It's I made it a few years ago, before when COVID was just starting, I think. So about 2019. And I thought, I have a nice collection of K Facet Collective fabrics, and I thought, you know, I might as well use them now. I've got nothing much, I can't go out, and I want to have something that I really, really love, and I've been saving them because I really do love them. But now is the time to use things that I really love. And so we have the K Facet Flying Geese. So easy to make, this block. A rectangle for the centers. A block is four pieces. And so I had 4 rectangles for each block, and then squares for the corners. And I just sewed the squares onto the corner of the rectangle. Sewed each diagonally, and yeah, that's how you make a nice string piece, because I string piece all my blocks. I think it is lovely. The colors are so beautiful and vibrant. A happy quilt. I'll probably take a few breaks this morning while quilting, have a drink and everything, but I must get on with it. If there's anything you would like to know about how I put my quilts together, please ask, and if I can answer them, I will. Okay, let's go. I'm ready to pull the quilt over and fold it now. So I'll fold the top in a couple of times so that I can quilt the bottom part. Not quilt it, pin it. I've pinned every triangle. It's looking nice and flat. I hope it's nice and flat on the back. Yeah, so now I will fold the top over. I need 2 hands, so I'll have to put this down, and we'll do the second half. This is the measurements of each segment within the block. So the rectangle, that's this part, is 8 inches by 4.5 inches, and the squares, 2 squares, are 4.5 inch squares. So that is what you need. And for each block, which is 4, you obviously need 8 squares and 4 rectangles. I thought I should clear that up because, you know, it's handy to know what size the geese are. And the finished block is 16.5 by 8.5. So I made all the blocks and then just string piece them together, and then string pieced each column together, because this is my sewing table, and small spaces call for quick ways and easy ways to piece pieces that are not so small, but you know, when I finished string piecing, it's quite a big area of the quilt top, to handle in my lap. So, I don't know whether that all makes sense, but yes, that's how I piece a quilt top like this. I'm up to joining the batting because remember my batting wasn't long enough. So I've looked through my scraps and I've found another piece, the same thickness and the same type of batting. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just lay it on top of this about an inch, and that's all I do. And so I just take the whole big piece and join it. And because the batting is rather expensive, there goes my kettle. I've got a whistling kettle. Because batting is expensive, not very expensive, you know, but the pieces are just too good to throw out or do something else. So this is what I do with my battings. And it will make the right length. And I'm happy. When I pin, now I'm ready to put my quilt top over. When I'm pinning, I'll make sure that you see, it's perfect. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's the right length. I'll make sure that I put pins along the join line. And then when I'm quilting, I'll make extra sure that I quilt on where I'll quilt where the join is in the batting. And that, my friends, will soon be that. I've got the quilt pinned up and I've trimmed it, sort of. I'm going to sew around it with a sewing machine first, but I have to choose bindings. I've got a few boxes of bindings. It's just picking the right one. I have got this one out, but I'm thinking I'm going to go with this Tula. It's Tula. Might be Justin Yenta, but I think it might be. I don't know who it is really. Anyway, I'm going to go with this one. I think it'll go with all the colours. I've got a nice meterage of it, and we'll just next step is to sew around the edge. That's it for this part of the quilt process. This is part 1. Part 2, I'll be sewing around the edge and putting the binding on. I'll do that when it's a bit cooler, probably next Monday. So we should have it all ready to go hand quilt by the end of March. So if you have any questions, please feel free. Please ask me questions. Comment on the fabrics, how I do things, where I purchase fabrics. I mainly purchase these online. And I just hope you enjoy this episode and the one that I'm going to make on my flying geese. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like the content. It helps my channel grow and helps me, I don't know, just helps me. I love to see friends, you know, comment, but that's me signing off for this episode. Bye, friends. Thanks for watching.